This episode is based on survivor logs, Navy rescue reports, and first-hand accounts recovered from United States Pacific Fleet archives. The voices you'll hear come from the men who survived the open ocean in the final months of World War II. 3 men, 30 miles of open ocean, 72 hours to survive. March 1945. The Pacific Theater. The battle for Iwo Jima had ended. American forces controlled the island, but the war was far from over. Thousands of men were moving between forward bases and hospital ships, supply boats, rescue craft, small vessels crossing dangerous waters. This is the story of 3 men who became lost at sea: a captain, a Navy diver, a Marine Corporal. Their boat failed, their radio died, and for 3 days they drifted in shark-infested waters with no food, no fresh water, and no guarantee of rescue. Captain William Smith, age 32. From Texas, Navy boat commander, diver first class Robert Jones, age 25. From California, Marine Corporal Daniel Miller, age 21. From Ohio, on March 17, 1945, they departed Iwo Jima on a routine supply run. They never arrived at their destination. 72 hours later, they were found, barely alive. The question this episode explores: how did 3 men survive 3 days adrift in the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by sharks, with no supplies and fading hope? March 17, 1945. 0800 hours. Captain Smith received orders. Transport medical supplies and mail from Iwo Jima to a hospital ship stationed 30 miles northeast. Routine assignment. 2-hour trip. Weather forecast. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas. Smith's boat was an LCVP, landing craft vehicle personnel, 36 feet long, wooden hull, diesel engine. Crew capacity: 3. Cargo capacity: 8,000 pounds. Not fast, not comfortable, but reliable. Diver Jones was assigned to accompany Smith. His job? Check the boat's hull for damage before departure and assist with loading. Marine Corporal Miller was hitching a ride. He'd been wounded 2 weeks earlier during the assault on Iwo Jima. Shrapnel in his left leg. He was being transferred to the hospital ship for surgery. At 09:15 hours, the LCVP departed Iwo Jima. Clear skies, calm water. Smith steered northeast. Jones checked the cargo. Miller sat on a crate, leg bandaged, reading a letter from home. Everything was normal. For the first hour, 1000 hours, 15 miles from Iwo Jima, halfway to the hospital ship, the engine coughed, sputtered, died. Smith tried to restart it. Nothing. He checked the fuel line. Clear. He checked the battery. Charged. He tried again. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. Jones opened the engine housing. Smoke. The smell of burned oil. He inspected the cylinders. One had cracked. Coolant mixed with fuel. The engine was dead. Smith radioed the hospital ship. This is LCVP-47. Engine failure. Position: approximately 15 miles northeast of Iwo Jima. Requesting assistance. Static. No response. He tried again. Still static. The radio was working, but no one was answering. Either the signal wasn't reaching them, or they were too busy to respond. Smith made a decision. We wait. They'll send a search party when we don't arrive on schedule. Standard protocol. We sit tight. Jones nodded. Miller asked, "How long?" Smith checked his watch. "We were due at 1100. When we don't show, they'll start looking. Maybe 2 hours, 3 at most." The 3 men settled in. They had no food, no fresh water, just the cargo, medical supplies and mail. And the ocean. Endless. Silent. Waiting. 1200 hours, no rescue. The sun climbed higher. Temperature rose. The LCVP had no shade. The men sat on the deck, shirts over their heads for protection. The heat was brutal. Miller's leg throbbed. The bandage was soaked with sweat. He didn't complain. Smith watched the horizon. Nothing. No ships, no planes, just water. Jones spotted movement in the water. 50 yards out, a dorsal fin, shark, then another, and another. 3 sharks circling the boat. Smith said, "Don't panic, they're curious. As long as we stay in the boat, we're safe." Miller stared at the fins. "What if they get closer?" Smith replied, "They won't. Sharks don't attack boats, they hunt fish. We're not on the menu." But the sharks didn't leave. They circled, slowly, methodically. 1,400 hours, still no rescue. Smith tried the radio again. Static. He checked their position. The current was pushing them northeast, away from Iwo Jima, away from the hospital ship, deeper into open ocean. Jones asked, "What's the plan if they don't find us today?" Smith said, "We conserve energy. Stay calm. They'll find us." But his voice was less certain now. 1,800 hours. Sunset. The sky turned orange, then purple, then black. Temperature dropped. The men had no blankets, no jackets, just wet uniforms. Smith, Jones, and Miller huddled together in the center of the boat. Body heat, the only warmth they had. The ocean was silent. No wind, no waves. Just the sound of water lapping against the hull. Miller whispered, "Do you think they're still looking?" Smith said, "Yes. Search and rescue doesn't stop at night. They have spotlights. They'll find us." But no lights appeared. No engines. No voices. Just darkness. 2,200 hours. Miller's leg was getting worse. Infection. The bandage smelled. Jones had basic first aid training. He unwrapped the wound, cleaned it with seawater, rewrapped it with a strip of cloth torn from his shirt. Jones said, "It's infected. He needs antibiotics. Soon." Smith nodded. "Tomorrow. They'll find us tomorrow." Midnight. The sharks were still there. The men could hear them, splashing, circling, waiting. Smith told himself, sharks don't attack boats. But the sound kept him awake. Jones wrote in a small notebook he kept in his pocket. A habit from training. Log everything. He wrote, "Day 1. Engine failed. Radio dead. 3 sharks. No rescue yet. Holding position. Morale steady. Steady. But slipping. March 18th. 0600 hours. Sunrise." The men woke stiff, sunburned and thirsty. No fresh water. Smith rationed what little they had, a single canteen, 3 sips each. That was all. Thirst is worse than hunger. The men knew that. The human body can survive weeks without food, but only days without water. And they were surrounded by water they couldn't drink. Salt water, poison. Jones checked Miller's leg. Worse, the infection was spreading. Red streaks. Fever. Miller was shaking. Smith said, "We need to cool him down." They soaked a cloth in seawater and placed it on Miller's forehead. It helped. A little. 1,000 hours. Still no rescue. Smith tried the radio again. Nothing. He tried signaling with a mirror, reflecting sunlight. No response. The ocean was empty. Jones spotted a plane. High. Distant. He waved his shirt. Shouted. The plane didn't change course. It disappeared over the horizon. Smith said, "They didn't see us. Too small. Too far." Jones slammed his fist on the deck. Frustration. Fear. Smith grabbed his shoulder. "Stay calm. Panic kills. We stay calm. We survive." But doubt was creeping in. Where was the rescue? Why hadn't they been found? 1,400 hours. The sky darkened. Clouds rolled in from the west. Wind picked up. The water, calm all morning, turned rough. Waves grew. 2 feet. 3 feet. 4. Smith said, "Storm coming. Secure the cargo. Stay low." The storm hit fast. Rain, wind, waves crashed over the sides. The LCVP rocked violently. Miller was too weak to hold on. Jones wrapped his arm around him, kept him from sliding overboard. Water filled the boat. Smith bailed with his helmet, one scoop at a time. Useless. But he kept bailing. The storm lasted 2 hours. Brutal, relentless. When it passed, the men were soaked, exhausted, and further from any shipping lane. The current had pushed them even farther northeast. Smith checked the compass. Useless without a motor. He checked the stars. Cloudy. No navigation. They were lost. Truly lost. Jones asked, "Do you think they've given up looking?" Smith didn't answer. He didn't know. 1800 hours. Sunset again. Second night. Miller was delirious, fever spiking. He mumbled about home, about his mother, about a girl named Sarah. Jones held him, kept him warm. Smith sat at the bow, staring at the horizon, searching for lights, searching for hope. 2300 hours. A sound, faint. An engine. Smith stood, listened. The sound grew louder. A plane. Low. Searching. Smith grabbed the mirror, reflected moonlight, waved, shouted. The plane passed, directly overhead, then continued. It didn't see them. Smith collapsed. Jones wrote in his notebook, "Day 2, storm, Miller critical, plane overhead, missed us, hope fading, but not gone." Midnight. The sharks were closer now. One bumped the hull. A test. Smith grabbed an oar, slammed it into the water. The shark retreated. But it didn't leave. Jones whispered, "If we go in the water, we're dead." Smith replied, "Then we don't go in the water." March 19th. 0600 hours. Sunrise. Third day. Miller was unconscious, breathing shallow. Jones checked his pulse. Weak, irregular. Smith said, "He's dying." Jones said, "Not if we get him help. Today. We need rescue today." Smith had no answer, no plan. Just hope. Fading hope. 1000 hours. A ship on the horizon, a destroyer. Jones saw it first. He screamed, waved. Smith fired a flare from the emergency kit, the only flare they had. The flare arced into the sky, red smoke, bright, visible. The destroyer changed course. Toward them, Jones collapsed, sobbing. Relief. Smith grabbed the radio, still dead. But it didn't matter. The ship was coming. 1100 hours. The destroyer pulled alongside. Sailors threw ropes, lifted the 3 men aboard. Miller first, unconscious, then Jones, then Smith. A Navy medic examined Miller. "He's alive. Barely. Get him to sick bay. Now." Smith sat on the deck, shaking. A sailor handed him water. He drank, too fast. Threw up. Drank again. Slower. The captain of the destroyer approached. "You're lucky. We were on patrol. Spotted your flare. Another hour, and we'd have been out of range." Smith nodded. "Lucky. 72 hours adrift. Lucky. March 21st. Hospital ship. Miller survived. Emergency surgery. Antibiotics. He'd lose part of his leg, but he'd live. Jones was treated for dehydration and sunburn. Released after 2 days. Smith filed his report. Engine failure. Radio malfunction. 3 days adrift. Rescued by USS destroyer Halsey. 3 men survived. The Navy investigated. The LCVP's engine had a manufacturing defect. A hairline crack in the cylinder. Undetectable during routine inspections. The radio failure was due to water damage during the storm. No one was blamed. Just bad luck. But Smith never forgot. 72 hours. 3 men. 30 miles of open ocean. Sharks. Storm. Thirst. Fear. In his final log entry, Smith wrote, "Survival is not about strength. It's about refusing to give up. We didn't survive because we were strong. We survived because we didn't quit." The Pacific Theater claimed thousands of lives, not all from combat, many from accidents, engine failures, storms, men lost at sea, never found. Smith, Jones, and Miller were the lucky ones. They were found. They came home. After the war, Smith stayed in the Navy, retired as a commander. He never spoke publicly about the 72 hours, but he kept Jones's notebook. A reminder, Jones became a commercial diver, worked oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. He told his story once to his grandson. The ocean doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're brave. You survive by staying calm and working. Together. Miller recovered, lost his lower left leg, prosthetic. He walked with a limp, but he walked. He married Sarah, had 3 kids, lived to be 86. In 2009, Miller's family donated his Purple Heart and his medical records to the National Museum of the Pacific War in Texas. Included in the donation, a handwritten note. I survived because 2 men refused to let me die, Captain Smith and Diver Jones. I owe them everything. The Pacific War was fought on islands and in the air, but it was also fought on the water. Thousands of small boats, supply runs, rescue missions, routine transfers. And when those boats failed, men died. Quietly. Alone. Lost in an ocean so vast that rescue was a matter of luck as much as skill. Smith, Jones, and Miller were 3 of the lucky ones. But for every story like theirs, there are dozens of men who were never found. Names on casualty lists, bodies never recovered. The lesson of The Last Paddle is simple. Survival is fragile. It depends on preparation, on calm, on teamwork, and on a little bit of luck. Smith's final words in his report: "We survived because we refused to panic. We trusted each other. And we believed someone would come. That belief kept us alive." If your family has Pacific Theater survival stories, letters, or logs, we'd love to hear about them. Leave a comment below. Share a memory. Help us preserve these voices. In our next episode, we'll explore another hidden story from the Pacific. A field hospital, 1 surgeon, 18 wounded, and the night that tested everything he knew. Subscribe for weekly long-form episodes based on letters, logs, and first-hand accounts. New episodes every week. Thank you for listening. And thank you to the men who survived the open ocean. The men who refused to quit.